Tell me how you kind of transitioned into real estate. I know we talked about you picked up the bigger pockets. You got, going down that trail, which is, very common. But when did it become clear to you that, hey, look, I'm a real estate guy. This space I know I'm going to do well in. This scientific thing is great. It was awesome. I talked about sort of, the path that was laid out to you by your parents and sort of checking that box was just a part of your childhood and you thought maybe a part of you. But how did that happen for you, Wayne, when you transitioned and you made a decision, hey, look, I'm a real estate guy. I'm getting into real estate, and you pulled the trigger?
Well, first of all, I want to preface by saying I'm still figuring it out. I'm very new to this space and only about a year into it. But I ended up leaving that company. Sometimes when you do really well, it ends up working against your favor. And the CEO, in fact, he saw how well the company was doing, and I think he changed his mind and no longer wanted to sell. So the opportunity kind of just ended there.
You created so much value that you essentially worked yourself out of the job.
Effectively.
Yeah. But you did learn from that. I would
did.
never look at it and say, well, I mean, it's your career, not mine. It's your thought process, not mine. But I would say you're going to gain more from that in the long run. 100%.
Yes.
By doing a really good job, making yourself valuable. Over the longevity of your career, if you approach every situation like that, you're going to win way more than lose.
Yeah. No, like I said, I don't regret anything that happened there. Obviously, it would have been nice for it to have worked out, and I would probably be the CEO or president of that small company.
And stuck, dude.
Life happens.
And stuck. Okay.
So I ended up, after that, I finally got to take my parental leave because I had my daughter in 21, right? And then in that time, I was like, what do I do next? And it was all part of the journey, right? Naturally, I fell back into what was comfortable, which was look for a W-2, right? Because that's all I've known my whole life. I have a PhD. It's like, let me keep building on top of that. So I kind of navigated back into the pharma space, joined a couple of startups. The most recent one, it was a unique situation. They hired me to build out the lipid nanoparticle function for their projects. And at the time I was pitched that there would be multiple projects for me to work on. It ended up working out that when I got there was really one main project for me to support. Which meant, so I got there, I built out the function within 30 days, delivered on my promise, and then it fell into the complacency, right? It's every day you're doing the same thing, or every week, right? You're doing the same thing.
It's boring.
The project's only progressed so far.
And when you're an entrepreneur, you want to be challenging yourself. I feel like that is a core characteristic of an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You want to challenge. You want to be growing. You want to be pushing something forward, including yourself. You want to be able to provide more, for your family, for your friends, for relationships, for the world. And I don't want to say stuck, right? There's pros and cons being a W-2.
Yes.
But when you're an entrepreneur, that thought process, hey, look, I want to be moving forward and progressing. And I'm being held back by this 9 to 5 because it's just 9 to 5. And the more I do, but look, there's only another rung right here that I can get to. And there's 47 people that want to be on it. So how am I essentially incentivized to work really hard, right? And then you have corporate politics, you got payroll, you got all these things, and then that rung only pays this much. And then at the end of the day, you're going to be maybe just managing more people, which is not that exciting for an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, for me, it wasn't even about the pay. I think it was about fulfillment.
It's always about the pay, bro. I'm just kidding.
And don't get me wrong, I don't have anything bad to say about my former employers. I think they brought me on, just like a business, right? They needed somebody to fill that niche, to build the lipid nanoparticle function, to do that to support the project, right? I did the math. If they were to outsource my function, they'd probably pay 4 times as much.
Right.
And it would take...
They had a hole in their game.
Yeah.
You came in
I
to
filled
fill it.
Yes.
And they saved money by doing that.
Yes.
But then after that was done, you were like, what's next?
Yes.
And they didn't have anything.
Yes.
Because that really was your brain was like, I can help you guys create something new. We can maybe look at this other product. Maybe we can look at this other market. Can we do all these things? But that's not your job in that company.
Yeah. But also I try to explore outside of my comfort zone, and a few things, right? One is, when you get very focused in research, you end up a little bit pigeonholed because your skill set is so specific to one thing that it doesn't become as applicable for other areas.
Sure.
So that was one of the issues. The other was, I think just culturally, they wanted me to do my job well. Right.
So I'm just going to throw this in, Wayne. I've never asked you this question before, and I've been thinking about this more and more lately as I read and, just continually grow along my personal journey as a business person. What do you think about jack of all trades versus a specialist? Because there are two schools of thought. One is, hey, you need to be really good at one thing. That's what you do. You lean in. We are the best at this, and that's all we do. Or, hey, we're good. I'm good at a lot of things. We're good at a lot of things, right? But we focus on these specific core things because we're the best at them, or they're the most profitable, or they're the most needed, etc. So specialization over a broad stroking sort of skill set.
I know exactly where you're going with this, and I'm so glad you brought it up because I've been thinking about this recently as well. So,
yeah, what are your thoughts about it?
So I used to think that it's good to be a generalist because I'm one myself. You do a little bit of everything, you can cover a lot of bases. But now I'm finding that I think it's better to be a specialist.
Interesting.
To dive deep. Because if you have multiple people diving deep in their own area, you can build so much more because there's a lot of synergy that comes with gaining deep expertise in something.
And then how do you deal with the boredom?
What boredom?
That's the thing. So that's what I'm thinking too along those lines. Okay, let's talk about like ADUs, right?
Sure.
Let's talk about developing in San Diego. We are obviously niched in. You hear me talk about it all the time. We're a specialist in this field. We're growing our skill set in this field every single day. We want to be the best ADU company on the planet, and by far the best ADU company in San Diego. So I would say that's our specialty. We develop and build ADUs and real estate in San Diego. But within that specialty, how many layers are there, right? And you can break that down, which I think is where people get lost. You can be a generalist and a specialist. I'll give you an example. Yu Darvish, pitcher for the San Diego Padres. Japanese guy, he's phenomenal, right? I think he probably has 10 or 12 pitches, Wayne. So he learns new pitches, but he's a pitcher. He doesn't play second base. He doesn't play shortstop.
Right.
He doesn't bat. He's not a hitter. He's a specialist as a baseball player. He's only a pitcher, but he likes to learn new pitches for fun. He's like a knuckle change. I can throw one of those. 4-seamer, 2-seamer,
right.
Changeup, like rain standard changeup, sweeper, slurve. He basically can throw every pitch. So you can become a jack of all trades and also be a specialist. And I think that's what I'm actually arriving at, because when you think about ADUs and you think about ADU pals, it's like, look, we can also flip houses, but is it in our lane? We're not getting outside of our lane. Meaning I'm not going to go play soccer if I'm Darvish. But can we do that? Yeah. Does it fit into our mold? Yeah. We can build one ADU. We can convert an ADU. We can build an ADU in the back. We can build an ADU in the front. We can build 8 ADUs, 10, 12, 15, 30, right? We're specialists in that field, but within that field, there's also a lot of nuance and things you can be doing. I call it to scratch the itch of, we want to be doing a lot of stuff.
Right. No, I mean, that's what I mean. I would argue that Yu Darvish is still a specialist by definition.
100%.
The pitches he's learning, it's specialized and synergistic to diving deep into being a pitcher. Just like you said, he's not trying to be a first baseman. He's not trying to be a shortstop, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? That's the specialization. And then for us, doing ADU pals, we are specializing in ADUs. We're not doing flipping. We're not doing, wholesaling. We're not doing any of these other projects.
Right.
Because we are specialized. And then within that, we have
For
the
the most
functions. Within that, we have our functions that we can be specialized in. Like, we can have somebody on building out systems. We can have somebody on acquiring deals. We can have somebody on construction, right? And that's kind of where we're gravitating toward. Everybody stays in our lane, but they're working in a macro ecosystem as opposed to, yes, a team. As opposed to like, Jonathan, you're doing, acquisitions and construction and this. And Wang, I'm doing acquisitions and construction. We're all...
Yeah, then you're trying to pitch in and play shortstop.
Yeah.
And
So
that's not how you build a winning team.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm coming to the realization that being specialized, I think, adds more value in the long run.
100%. I agree. Okay, we are running on time, dude. So you wanted to get into investing, and we never got to the point. So when did you pull the trigger and say, okay, you know what? These other small things, I'm stuck here, and I'm going.
Well, that's the funny thing. I didn't actually pull the trigger. Life kind of just happens. So I picked up the book, right, and then got into investing about a year ago, Memorial Day weekend. We had our first deal that I found. We're going to make an offer on it. It was a sixplex in Indiana. I even negotiated a 10% discount, but it was the lack of experience, lack of education, lack of a mentor. We chickened out. We're like, this deal seems too good to be true. The math doesn't math. Like, it math is so well. that are we missing something here? Took the long weekend, ended up losing the deal to a all cash buyer.
How's that deal performing now? You look at
I
it now.
haven't followed up with it. But
Add a little pain in your life. It's
yeah,
good.
yeah. But fast forward a few months, right? I'm kind of doing real estate, looking at investing on the side, just because I have the time and I'm looking for fulfillment in my life because my job only provides one small element of that.
Right.
And then the company did really well. The company raised I don't remember, 200 something million dollars, one of the biggest biotech raises of last year in a very tough raise environment, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah, post-COVID.
Post-COVID. But with the money came a more demanding board. And so the project I was working on, I was a very niche function in there. They said that, there wasn't enough progress to be made, or they didn't see enough progress, so they decided to cut it a little bit.
So you got the axe.
Yep. Got
Okay.
the axe. So then that's when I was like, well, I've tried going back to the W-2 over and over again. And
Not playing out.
not playing out.
Yeah.
It seems like now's the time to pull the trigger.
Sure.
Be an entrepreneur. I had the Detroit deal going on. I was in the midst of it. And, thank God it worked out the way it did, because I can't imagine doing a deal like that, being a GP on a syndication and doing a full-time job at the same time.
Okay, so you're like, I'm giving up on the W-2 thing. If it comes back around, it comes back around. I'm leaning into this real estate thing. You were already investing in some properties. You started joining masterminds.
Mm-hmm.
You're a big proponent of masterminds and coaching now, or before you weren't. So you're in multiple masterminds. You started meeting people. That's how you and I met, actually, through our friend Oliver Davis.
Yes.
Who I met through LinkedIn. He reached out to me just, off the cuff. Him and I became friends. He came down to look at ADUs because he's building them up in the Bay. He came down here. You saw that, and then you reached out to me and were like, hey, Jonathan, you're friends with my friend Oliver. And that's the power of networking, guys. That's the power of social media. That's your camera right there.
Okay.
That's the power of social media. That's the power of networking. Put out positive energy. Put out your thoughts. Listen, guys, people don't care that much. It's mostly in between, your two ears, what you think. People don't really care.